An urgent rescue and recovery operation is underway in Afghanistan after a powerful midnight earthquake rocked the country's underdeveloped east, leaving at least 1,000 people dead. The magnitude 6.1 tremor sent people fleeing from their homes as it reduced entire villages to rubble.
The Taliban government has made a desperate call for international assistance as it scrambles to respond to the unfolding disaster, made worse by a severe economic crisis after decades of conflict. Lots to cover here, starting with South Asia correspondent Avani Dias.
Afghanistan is a country that has dealt with every unimaginable horror. It's dealt with years of fighting, a takeover by the militant Taliban regime, cash being cut off to the country, and a dire economic crisis that has created famine to many people living there. And now this awful situation, a severe earthquake, the worst in the country in 20 years. Now, the death toll continues to rise. We're expected to see that death toll go up as rescue teams go through the rubble in this eastern part of Afghanistan and find more bodies. But the stories that we are hearing from local people on the ground are so devastating. People saying that in these regions, every corner you walk on, people are mourning the loss of a loved one. That's how widespread this devastation has been. One man described it as losing his entire family under rubble. So now the next question is, how much will the international community help? The Taliban is not recognised officially as a government by Western nations like Australia, but it has called for more humanitarian aid. Now, we know that this is going to be an issue for the Taliban. It's not equipped to deal with a disaster of this scale, and images we're seeing coming out of this very remote part of the country are showing that health responders are not able to do much, perhaps that they're not equipped to actually deal with what's going on. But what we do know is that Afghan people are dealing with yet another devastating loss. Many people trying to just get in touch with loved ones in these villages to see if they've lost their relatives.
Avani Dias there, and we've got the CEO of Care Australia, Peter Walton, in the studio with us. Peter, good morning. We're just hearing from Avani that there's so little information still. What are you hearing?
Well, we know we've got the confirmed deaths, but our forecast for sort of growing case numbers around people who have suffered, but the level of injury is incredibly high. Care Australia has been operating in Afghanistan for many years, and we were gravely concerned about the situation there even before the earthquake. There's an economic crisis, there's a food crisis. This is a compounding issue on top of those things and COVID, so we're deeply, deeply concerned.
This area, the Paktika province, what part of Afghanistan is that in, and what kind of people live there?
Yeah, so it's on the eastern side, and Paktika and also Khost are two of the worst hit areas. The population there is probably 1 to 2 million. A lot of sort of quite dispersed remote villages as well as a few townships. So that's going to make the rescue effort even harder. We're nervous about ongoing aftershocks, and indeed worried about, in that mountainous area, a lot of potential for landslides as well.
When you said we've got the death toll confirmed, we know what it is right now, but it can often grow once people are there.
Look, I think in events like this, it tends to grow. There's a lot of, there is a lack of information. Many areas will be inaccessible at the moment. So we're sadly going to see that death level climb, but also the level of injury and also the displacement. People are losing their homes. People are losing basic possessions, basic things that they need to survive. And of course, there's a whole range of health-related issues. So we've deployed a medical team there with doctors, midwives, nutritionists, and also psychosocial support to provide both first aid, trauma care, and also making sure that we can provide some basic requirements to help people survive.
How difficult is it going to be with the Taliban now in control? I mean, it was always difficult to begin with, right? But since the Taliban took back control, how hard is it now?
Well, it is hard. A lot of agencies left Afghanistan. So in terms of international support, Care Australia is working there through our local partners. But it will be incredibly hard. There is a humanitarian exemption, though, which I think is really important. So whilst there were sanctions against the Taliban, you know, the humanitarian imperative is absolutely key, so that innocent civilians civilians don't suffer here. So we have been working continuously in Afghanistan as an organisation and are really looking to ramp up our support at this desperate time.
What's needed from Australia? Can we do anything to help?
Yes, of course. Care Australia has an appeal. It has had an ongoing appeal for Afghanistan, so to provide support so that we can mobilise more and more support to local partners and local communities. We'll be supplying non-food items, the basics, water containers, shelter, hygiene kits for women who often are disproportionately impacted at times of disaster. So Australians can help and Australians should help. I think it's really critical. Most of the attention recently, quite understandably, has gone to the Ukraine, but the crisis in Afghanistan has been, basically in the background the whole time, and this is just amplifying all of the difficulties that country faces.
Peter Walton, I don't know that you had much sleep last night getting across all of this. Thank you for coming in this morning.
Thank you.